What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Chilling with B and C. Obviously, I am C. So what's up, y'all? How's everybody doing? Thank y'all for coming back to our channel, watching our videos. I want to say a huge thank you to everybody for liking, subscribing, all of the above. So thank you guys so much for watching our videos. And obviously, B's not here, but she's obviously grateful as well. So today we are going to tell our stories. Tell obviously how we got to where we are today, where we came from, and yeah, just kind of give y'all a backstory about, who we are and things like that. And yeah, so comment below. Obviously, if I don't answer all the questions that you guys had, this was definitely a very requested video from you guys that you wanted to hear more about our stories and where we came from. So please, if I don't cover everything in this video, definitely comment down below and let me know if there's any other questions you have. But yeah, hopefully I can cover all your questions, and let's definitely get started. So obviously, again, you guys know I'm C for B and C. My actual name is Christina. That's my actual first name. And I was born in Zephyrhills, Florida. Those of you who don't know, it's a little town right outside of Tampa. It's closer to Tampa, Florida. If you are familiar with Zephyrhills water, probably a lot of you know about that water. It's pretty popular. But yeah, the Zephyrhills water, that's exactly where I'm from. I actually grew up right down the street from the water company that's in Zephyrhills. So definitely know a lot about the water, and I actually grew up swimming in that spring. Definitely can't do that anymore. Obviously, it's obviously shut down for water purposes, but when I was a kid, I used to swim in that spring. So that's actually kind of ironic how that works out. So yeah, I was born in Zephyrhills, Florida. I was born on October 3rd, 1994, in Zephyrhills Hospital. Back then it was called Zephyrhills Hospital. Now it's Event Health, something like that, Event Health Florida Hospital, something like that. I don't know. Still there, same hospital. Obviously it's called something different, but it's still in the same location. It's still up and running. And actually, my niece was born there. One of my nieces was born there. So yeah, it's pretty interesting how that worked out. So I don't know exactly what time I was born. I think it was in the afternoon, if I remember correctly, from what I was told. But yeah, I was born, and I don't remember how much I weighed exactly, but I know I was 6 pounds. So yeah, I think I was the tiniest out of, all the, the kids that my mom birthed. And so yeah, so that's where I was born. And I grew up in Zephyrhills pretty much my entire life, except for kind of a few years off and on, just moving around, things like that. But I was always connected to Zephyrhills in some type of way, or still had family down here, whatever. So I was always still in town, even if I lived out of the out of town for a few years or whatever it was. So yeah, so that's where I'm from originally. And so kind of get into the actual story. So those of you who know, my grandmother is a big part of my life, and especially my childhood. A lot of you probably know me from that point in my life, and she did raise me and my younger brother. So there's 6 of us all together, and we all have different moms and dads, or going into that. And when I was about 9 years old is when my grandmother kind of came into the picture a little bit more, and also my aunt too. I actually lived with my aunt for about 6 years in the Seffner, Brandon, Mango area, if you're familiar with that area, until we moved back to Zephyrhills. And that's where the whole part comes in of when I was out for a few years. But again, my grandmother owned a house in Zephyrhills, and like I said, we still had a lot of family and friends that lived there. So I'll kind of start from the very beginning. So as far as before I went into elementary school, I do not think that I went to a preschool. All my family and friends, if y'all know, and I'm kind of misgive information, obviously I was too young to understand. So if I'm misgiving any information, definitely comment below, but I'm pretty sure this is pretty accurate. I don't think that I went to a preschool. I do not remember going to a preschool. I think maybe I might have went to a daycare, maybe here and there. But I definitely wasn't in for a long period of time or anything like that. From the most part, from what I remember, my mom was stay at home until I remember that vividly from probably about 5 or 6 years old. I remember my mother being home, and then when I was about, I think it was 5, when my younger brother Jeffrey was born, from also my mom too. And so we grew up by the railroad tracks. So we lived in a trailer. So down here in the South, a lot of you probably don't even know what that is, especially if you live up north. There's not really trailers up north. But we lived in a trailer, which down here is what, what our housing was. I mean, houses were, that was for rich folk. That was for, the more wealthier, higher class, from where I'm from anyway. So we lived in a trailer, and, I think me and my older sister, we shared a room. This is from when I was about 5 years old, from when I can actually remember. I don't know where I was when I was a baby. But yeah, so we shared a room, and then I think my brother had his own room, and then obviously my parents had their room. My older sister, she's 12 years older than me. So she was actually a high school senior when I was going into kindergarten. So, obviously I've seen a lot of her friends, and, I got to kind of experience the adult lifestyle, or, whatever, out of high school, a lot more than my actual childhood. Cause again, a lot of my siblings are a lot older. So I was always kind of seeing, other stuff going on besides just my school or anything like that. So some things happened, and we ended up having to move to my grandmother's house that she owned, that was given to her by her parents that had passed away, and they had obviously given her their home, and it was now hers. And some things had happened, and she allowed us to come live in the trailer. At the time, my grandmother was a caregiver, and if you know what that is, there's different types of caregivers, but the one that she was involved in, she actually lived with the people that she was taking care of. So she didn't necessarily need the house at that point in time. It was just kind of like a, where she went on the weekends, or, when she wasn't working or anything like that, is when she would go to her house. So for the most part, it was empty most of the time. And so she allowed us to come, live there. And I believe it was a 2-bedroom trailer. And yeah, so we lived there, and I went to a couple different elementary schools. Growing up, we moved a lot. So I went to a couple different elementary schools. I'm pretty sure I went to almost every elementary school in Zephyr Hills, if I remember correctly. I went to a couple that were in Dade City, and I ended up going to one in Seffner, I believe, and like the Brandon area. So yeah, that part still kind of, I was young, so I don't really remember all of that. But I did bounce around to a lot of elementary schools. I was always a pretty good kid for the most part anyway. I was always big into getting good grades, and that was just something that was fun to me, to be competitive in that area, to be the best academically. I didn't really get into like sports or anything too much in elementary school until the very end of elementary school, and then going into middle school. I did cheer in elementary school. I believe I was in 4th or 5th grade when I started. We cheered for like the recreational, like football cheerleading little squad that was in the little town that we were in. So kind of cut into that. So before I had cheered, again, some things had went down in my family, and we ended up going to live with my aunt, and she lived in the Seffner, Brandon, Mango area, and that's where I did the cheering at. So I was actually cheerleading, not in Zephyr Hills, but over there. And that's when I got into not the school squad, but the like community squad or whatever it was called. Y'all know what I'm talking about. If you know like what Z-PAL is, or whatever, you know what I'm talking about. So I cheered for a few years, loved it at that point in time. I loved the being competitive and hanging out with the other girls, and just doing something for fun, and being able to wear that uniform, and that sense of pride and, you know, all those kind of things. So it was a good time. But definitely as a kid, it was really fun to, you know, hang out with other girls that were your age and get insight and things like that. So that was definitely really fun. Okay, so going into that was elementary, and then going into middle school. So right at the beginning of my 6th grade year, I had went to, I can't remember the name. I think it's like Burnett. I think it's called Burnett Middle School. If you know what I'm talking about, comment below. But Burnett Middle School, I believe it's in Seffner as well. Like Seffner, again, Seffner, Mango area. So I went to Burnett for my 6th grade year. From what I remember, it was fun. From what I remember, I don't remember like being bullied or anything bad like that. I mean, I got picked on a little bit, but I think everybody does. And that was where I went. That was the only time I went to Burnett, was in 6th grade. So cut into, my aunt had built a house and things like that, or bought a piece of property, whatever it was, in Zephyrhills, and that's when I moved back to Zephyrhills. So for those about 5 or 6 years, or I think it was like maybe 3 or 4 years. Again, I don't remember correctly. That's when I lived in Seffner. And then that was elementary, and then cutting into middle school, I spent the first year in the Seffner area, and then that's when we purchased the house and then moved back to Zephyrhills. So now I'm back in Zephyrhills, and I was going into my 7th grade year. I went to Centennial Middle School, and we kind of lived like out in the middle of nowhere, kind of, sort of, just out of the city limits, basically. So there wasn't really like a lot of like neighbors, or, you know, we didn't live in like a subdivision. We lived in the country, literally. There was maybe like 3 or 4 houses kind of in our area, but it wasn't like it was, you know, right next door. You kind of had to, you know, walk to their houses or whatever. So I didn't really grow up with a lot of, and, you know, at that point in my life anyway, I didn't really grow up with like a lot of kids my age. Like, there was a couple of them that went to the same school, and the only reason why I even knew who they were is because we got on the bus together every morning, and that's how I knew that they lived in that area. So it was kind of definitely boring, I guess, as for a child. Like, you don't really have nobody to hang out with, so you're kind of just doing your own thing. And I had my little brother, but of course, you know, when you get to a certain age, who wants to hang out with their younger brother? Obviously not me. So we kind of fought a lot during that time. But it was definitely, it was really cool to live out in the country and kind of just live a different type of life and enjoy the quietness and not having anybody around you. And it makes you, as a child, it makes you learn a lot about yourself, and yeah, just how to, you know, just how to survive out there. And you know, I really got into music when I lived there, because again, you don't really have, you know, a lot of people to talk to. So that's really when I discovered music and CDs, and, you know, just like American Idol was the best thing ever back in that day for me. I mean, that was like, I can't even remember now when it came on during the week. But that was like my favorite show to watch as a kid. I had to watch every single show, and, you know, I used to act like I was voting for the people. I obviously didn't know how to do that, but I would, you know, act like I was calling a number and try to, you know, go online and try to post or hit the votes or whatever. And that was at the time when like Carrie Underwood won American Idol, and like Kelly Clarkson had, you know, obviously she had already won a few seasons before that, and she was really big during that time. And NSYNC and Britney Spears was huge. And actually Britney Spears was what I listened to a lot in elementary school. That's really when you know, a lot of her songs, that her most popular songs dropped, was when I was in elementary school. So I was definitely a pop fan all the way from there. And then going into middle school is when I really got introduced to like country music, rock music, and things like that, because I obviously was more affiliated with country type people during that time, living in the country. I didn't really get affiliated with like R&B, hip hop, rap music, things like that, until going into closer to my high school years. And that's kind of when I started, like, you know, hanging out more with my older brothers, because obviously I was, you know, younger. So when I got a little bit older is when I kind of started hanging out with them a lot more, and they introduced me to R&B, rap music, you know, things like that. And I was you know, as a teenager, you know, especially when you don't get to really hang out with kids and stuff like that much, and you know, you're kind of oblivious to life. It's mind-blowing as a child to listen to that for the first time. Like Jason Derulo was, you know, just kind of getting his thing. Jordan Sparks was just out at that point in time. Daughtry, Chris Daughtry, like, I mean, the list goes on and on. So that was my childhood, was that. So middle school, didn't do any sports or anything in middle school, and I did not cheer in middle school either. I did a couple clubs and, you know, some stuff like that, but like I said, I lived kind of in the middle of nowhere my entire middle school career. So I just kind of stuck to the basics, you know, did my schoolwork, and that was pretty much it. So now going fast forwarding into high school, that was when we officially moved in with my grandmother. So yes, my grandmother was very much affiliated with my life, even from the time I was a child, but I did not live with her necessarily until I got into high school. She had retired at that point in time, and that's when she, you know, came in and took us in, and then we officially lived with her. So again, if I was 9 when I moved in with my aunt, and I was there for a few years, again, very affiliated with my grandmother still. We just lived with her, and then that's when my grandmother permanently took us when I was going into high school. So to kind of clear that up. So obviously now I'm going into high school. This is my freshman year of high school. So we moved from out in the middle of nowhere, that was still in Zephyr Hills, to more in the city of Zephyr Hills, kind of more in the city limits of Zephyr Hills. My grandma was, you know, it was really important to her that we grow up in a neighborhood, or, you know, the rest of our childhood anyway, try to grow up in a neighborhood and being around other kids. And also for her, you know, being an older woman and taking in 2 young, you know, pretty much young kids at that point in time. My brother was a teenager, going into being a teenager, and I already was a teenager at this point. So it was really hard on her to keep up with us and all the things that we wanted to do, and it was a lot easier for her to be able to not have to drive so much in and out of town to come pick us up from our, you know, our sporting events, whatever it is that we wanted to do. And cutting into that, my grandmother was really big on us being involved, no matter what it was. It didn't have to be school necessarily, but she wanted us to have a hobby or something that kept us busy, something that kept us out of trouble, basically. So that was when I went to cheer out for cheerleading. And, you know, obviously things change, you know, as a person, you change and you grow and you evolve. And I was growing into a young adult, and I didn't really get along so well with girls at that point in time. I was definitely more tomboy. I was definitely more wanted to get my hands dirty. I wanted to be on the 4-wheelers. I wanted, you know, all of that. So I really changed a lot being in the country and living out there, and cheering just wasn't my thing anymore. I did try out for the junior varsity cheerleading squad at Zephyr Hills High School, which is where I went to high school, Zephyr Hills. I graduated from there too. And I tried out for the junior squad, and I'll just be honest, they didn't really make me feel welcome. They didn't really, you know, I just kind of felt like they were a bunch of stuck-up girls. No offense to all the high school chicks out there that were on the cheerleading squad. You know, I'm not trying to call nobody out, but it just wasn't my gig. It wasn't for me. I didn't like the attitudes of the girls. I didn't like the way they made me feel. You know, all of us that were there for the first time, that were trying out, you know, I had a couple friends from middle school that I knew, and all of us were just kind of like, nah, this is not what we wanted to, you know, we wanted to be a part of something bigger than that. And I just didn't want to have to make myself be friends with girls just because I wanted to be a cheerleader. It wasn't that important to me. I didn't need to be popular. So it didn't work out. I actually was there for like 2 hours at the first practice, and I ended up, I think if I remember right, I asked to go to the bathroom, and when I went to the bathroom is when I had used my friend's cell phone, and I called my grandmother to come pick me up from the first tryout or practice, whatever it was. And, you know, of course, she's like, it's not even time. You know, what do you mean I have to pick you up at X amount of time? Why are you ready to go already? And I told her on the phone, you know, Grandma, this is not for me. And I just don't think that I would fit in with these girls. And, you know, I don't feel I don't feel welcome. I don't, this is not, it didn't feel right to me. And it was really funny. And my grandma was like, okay, well, if you're not going to cheer, then you got to do something. You got to figure something out. She was really big on that. She really wanted us to be involved and to just better ourselves as people and to have a future. So I kind of put cheering on standby. I remember that I'm so sorry, y'all. Excuse me. But I actually remember talking to my grandmother about going to like a training camp, to get better as a cheerleader so I could try out for the varsity squad. I don't know why I thought that was going to be better. Maybe I thought because they were better cheerleaders that they would not be so aggressive, I guess. I don't really know, but I was like, oh, I'm going to go for the varsity squad. They're going to be mean to me, then I'm going to go to the varsity squad. And obviously that didn't work out. So I ended up kind of putting that out there, and I kind of put cheering on the back burner, and just kind of was like, okay, like I really didn't have anything in mind of what I wanted to do. Sorry, y'all, that's my husband. But I don't know. I wasn't like really big into soccer. I wasn't big into volleyball. Like I like to play soccer. I like to play volleyball. I like to play basketball. But is it my passion? Is it something that I want to take time out of my day to, to put more work into? Like, is it something that's really important to me? And nothing really clicked. Nothing really like inspired me to go for it, basically. So cutting back to, again, my end of my eighth grade year, we're going into high school, so they're trying to recruit you into, sports and clubs and all these things that they want you to sign up for as your freshman year in high school. And we're in the cafeteria, and they're kind of going through, all these things. There's like the soccer team is there from, each high school that was in our city or in the town, and just whatever, a bunch of people there to recruit you, basically. And again, all these sports, the seniors of the high school are walking in and talking about how they're already signed to colleges and whatever. They're trying to give us the rundown. And again, nothing caught my eye. Nothing at all. Nothing interested me. I completely just didn't faze me at all. And one of the last groups that had come in, they were in military uniforms. They were in ACU. So if you know what that is, it's probably not called that anymore. So correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a few years. But at the time they were called ACUs. And if you don't know what that is, it's the camouflage uniforms that you see the military wear. So like the Army was the one that I'm specifically talking about, but every branch does have different types of uniforms. At this point in time, they were called, this is back in 2009. So 2009 is when this happened. And again, they were in what's called ACUs. There was a couple of them that were in Class A uniforms, which at that point was the jacket over your complete outfit. And then your Class B was just the shirt, the tie, obviously your pants, and then your shoes. So basically Class A, but without the jacket. And at that point in time, they were lime green. So if you remember, they used to call us pickles back in the day because we look like pickles. Literally, they're green uniforms. They're not green anymore, I don't believe. So that was what they walked in. And I was just mesmerized by these people. I mean, I could not take my eyes off these people. They were just, it was just something about the uniform. It was something about their attitudes. It was something about just how they presented themselves and the confidence they had, and just seeing all the awards, and everybody was different. And that is what really caught my eye, is every single person that was standing on that stage, female and male, and all different races, all different cultures, all different sizes. I mean, it was unreal. It really blew my mind, and I was just in love. I was absolutely in love. I needed to know more. I wanted to know what are these people, why are they dressed like this? And I knew about military. I knew what Army was, and Marines and Air Force, all those things. I knew a lot about that. I had some family members that were enlisted as well, but I never questioned it. I never, when I was watching the news, I seen them in uniform, but never, it never caught my eye like that until I seen people my own age in uniform. And it was like, oh my God, like, okay, so how did they get there? You know what I mean? Like, how do you get all these things on your shirt? Like, what do you have to do to get all that? And I'll never forget it to this day. He was actually my instructor in high school, and his name is First Sergeant McCauley. He's still at the high school. He's still teaching the class. And Sergeant Smith, I don't believe that he was there that day. He could have been. I'm not 100% sure. But First Sergeant was the one that I remember the most vividly. And at that point in time, he was with a couple groups of seniors that were in the program. So the program I'm talking about is called Junior ROTC, so JROTC. The program is called Junior ROTC, so JROTC. I do not remember what the actual abbreviations mean. I know, horrible me, but if you know, I've been graduated for almost 10 years. I don't remember. So I don't do it anymore if I don't remember. But that's the program. It's called Junior ROTC, so JROTC, at Zephyr Hills High School. A lot of high schools have this program. A lot of people, I'm sure, are very knowledgeable about this program. Also the Pasco High School, which is in Dade City, that's, you know, down the road from us, is the Navy, the Navy ROTC. So junior ROTC, but it's Navy. Ours was Army branched. There's also Air Force branches, there's Navy branches, there's a bunch of different ones. Look it up, I'm not going into it. So I was just, again, mesmerized. And First Sergeant McCauley, which is the SIA at that point in time, he was obviously enlisted in the military, and now he is a teacher for the school, but obviously he's an instructor of the program. So I know that sounds weird, but that's who he was. And he walked up to my table, and at the time I was sitting with my friend. And I remember him looking at my paper, because they gave us a sheet of paper that you were supposed to fill out with whatever it was that you were interested in, whatever program you wanted to do, club, whatever it was. And I had nothing circled. I didn't know what I wanted. And he came right up to my table, and he's like, you know, I see you looking over in our direction. Are you interested? And obviously I was like kind of shy at first, didn't really want to like put myself out there. But at the same time, I was like, you know, kind of, yeah, like, you know, what do y'all do? You know, what is like this whole thing? I had no idea what it was. And he walks right up to my table, and right when he says that, he had like a permanent marker in his shirt, and he took the permanent marker and circled JROTC at Zephyr Hills High School on my paper and initialed it so that I couldn't change it, basically is what that means. So he permanently marked my paper. That's what I was going to be interested in when I went to high school. And, you know, I told myself, you know what, I'm going to try it. And if I don't like it, I'm going to do just like I did with the cheerleading practice, and I'm going to leave. That was my mindset at this point in time. If I was just going to do it, and then if I didn't like it, then I was going to get out of it. I couldn't change it at that point. He permanently marked my paper. Now, if I really wanted to, could I have went up to the teacher and gotten a different paper? Yes, of course I could have done that. But again, I was mesmerized. So now we're cutting into the first day of high school. So that was the end of 8th grade year. Now we're cutting in to the first day of high school. So as you know from the video that me and B are going to be doing about how we met, which you already seen that, you know that we lived in the same neighborhood. That's the neighborhood that I moved into with my grandmother. And that's how me and Brickell met. So that's how that story began. But yes, so we are now living in the neighborhood, and it's the first day of high school. Obviously, me and B have already met already. So this is different. So now for this first day, and I believe, if I'm correct, God strike me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was my first class of the day was the ROTC class. I could be, actually, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Sorry. I think it was like my 3rd or 4th period. Anyway, I don't remember. I have to look back at my report cards. But I had walked into the class, and I remember it wasn't like a regular classroom. You know, it didn't have desks set up like a regular classroom did with your own chair. And this was a open room, and it had like a very large open room. And it just had pictures of, you know, all the previous students that in their uniforms, and all the awards and things I didn't understand. You know, it was like first place district, first place state, third place, whatever it was. And I'm like, what is state? What is district? I don't know what I don't know what that is, or what the award was even for. And I remember the first sergeant and Sergeant Smith, which are the instructors, they were at the door and they were taking attendance as we walked in the door, which I didn't understand why until obviously now. And I was in the line to get into the class. And if you went to Zephyrhills High School, you know that when the bell rang, you had 5 minutes to get from the class that you were just in to your next class, or you got a tardy. So I remember, because obviously this is the first day, I don't know where everything is. I'm very confused. It's a very big school. I don't know what's going on. Nervous, ninth graders like everybody else is. And I remember like running to this class because I couldn't find it. And I finally asked somebody where it was, and then I found the class. And I'm in line and kind of backtracking a little bit. When I told my grandmother about the program that I signed up for, she automatically was like, I don't know if she's gonna be okay with this. And she was kind of explaining to me what it was. She obviously knew a little bit more about it than I did. And she was telling me that, this was Army and this was military, and they're gonna yell at you, and they're gonna try to belittle you to make you better. And I was just kind of like, man, whatever. Like, I didn't listen. I was a teenager. I thought I knew everything. And I'm like, what do you mean they're going to yell at me? Like, they can only yell at me if I do something wrong. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I remember being very nervous because I did not want to be yelled at. I mean, come on now. Who, as a teenager, as a kid, you don't want to be yelled at on purpose. I mean, come on. So I remember being really nervous because I was, again, I was a good kid. I didn't get into trouble. I wasn't a troublemaker. I was pretty, I was good with my grades, things like that. So I was, kind of like, ugh, I don't know what's going to happen. And I remember in the line, and I remember going in, and I was like the third or fourth person about to go in. And I remember First Sergeant telling everybody to tuck our shirts in. So he was literally telling us like to tuck our shirts in, put your shirt in your pants. And I took it so offensively because I'm like, who are you to tell me what I can and cannot do with my clothes? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not showing anything. I look appropriate. I'm not, out of dress code. It's not like my stomach was hanging out. It's not like my pants were, where you could see something. Like, I was kind of confused. And I obviously, I didn't wear a belt that day. I don't think my outfit either did, or I don't remember the reason why I didn't have a belt on. But I didn't have a belt on that day. And if you know, then you know that when you go into the ROTC room, you're supposed to have a belt on, and you're supposed to have your shirt tucked in. So if you don't know what that is, it's respect is what it is. It's respect, and it's integrity, and it's you just showing your loyalty and having respect for yourself and for the people that are in that room. And that was the number one rule, that you had to have your shirt tucked in. It was professional, and you had to have a belt on. They didn't play the pants dragging below your butt to your knees. That didn't happen. So that was a main thing. And I remember being very offended because I'm like, why is he telling me to tuck my shirt in? Why do I have to wear a belt? Like, who are you to tell me what I'm allowed to wear? And anybody who didn't have a belt on or refused to tuck their shirt in had to do push-ups. So there was a room called, or there was a part of the room that was called the drop zone. And it was literally labeled in tape where to put your hands, where to put your feet, how low you were supposed to go, and the whole nine. So it was called the drop zone. And basically, if you were disrespectful, if you didn't do what you were told, whatever, if you didn't follow the rules, then you had to go to the drop zone to go do push-ups. We also had a rope, which was the worst. Trust me, you would rather do push-ups than get on that rope any day of the week. But the rope was, again, pull yourself to the top. And if you were getting a consequence for something or whatever. So it's fun, but it was also horrible at the same time, because you don't want to get in trouble, because you don't want to be the one to go over there. But at the same time, you want to call somebody else out and say, go to the drop zone. So it was just a fun thing that they did. It taught us a lot of discipline. It taught us respect, taught us loyalty, all those things. And I remember that's one thing that really stuck with me, even after I graduated, was that dang drop zone. Because I've been there a few times, trust me. And I've put definitely a few cadets in that drop zone a few times in my life too. Me and my grandmother had an agreement, and she told me, I'll give you 1 week. If you don't like this class, if you really hate it that much, and if it's making you absolutely that miserable, I will go to your school, talk to your guidance counselor, and I will get your class changed to something else. But you have to try and see if you might like it. You never know until you try. And it was 1 week that we agreed on. And she told me, she promised me that if I did not like it, that she would go to the school and change my class. And then obviously I had to figure out what I was going to do next. So again, varsity cheerleading was still kind of up here. And I didn't really know what I was going to do if I didn't like ROTC. I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't know what I was going to do. So the first day, I remember we were in the class, they were just kind of like, introducing themselves. Just kind of like the first day, you go over a syllabus, kind of just like when you're in regular class, except for this one was a little bit different. It's not just classwork. It was physical work. It was also staying after school, practices, the different teams that you can set up for, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to go into all that. So first day, obviously went home. Nope, not doing this. This is horrible. They're making me do push-ups. They're making me tuck my shirt in. They're making me do all these things. Not doing it. Nope, sorry. So my girl was like, okay, we got the rest of the week. Let's see what happens. Obviously I stated it. I ended up having a really found respect for the program, and I loved it. I did it all 4 years. I moved up every single year. I was in drill team. I was in Raiders. I was in, drill team, Raiders, academic team, honor guard, color guard. There's a lot, y'all. It was a lot, but I was in a lot of it. I was, my first year, I didn't really rank up too high because I was still kind of trying to as a freshman year, trying to figure it out still and what everything is about. I think if I do know for a fact. My freshman year, the highest rank that I went up to, that's the dog, y'all, sorry. I did go up to corporal, which is not that high. It's not that high for a freshman. It's pretty good, but it's not crazy high. And did that. And then I knew kind of my freshman year, I kind of laid back and was just kind of trying to learn the school and trying to figure out kind of where I wanted to go. Sorry, y'all, the dog's still barking. And, I fell in love with the program at that point. I knew about halfway through my freshman year that I was going to put everything I had into that program. I knew that sports wasn't my thing. I knew that I didn't want to cheer, obviously, anymore. I did a couple clubs, like the historian club and just kind of some whatever clubs. And I'll be honest with you, I really didn't do a whole lot. I just kind of did it for college applications. I'll be real. But I was very involved in ROTC 100%. That was my number one thing besides my actual schoolwork. And to be in ROTC, a lot of you who don't know this, to be in the program, you have to hold a certain GPA. Now, let me make this clear that, sorry y'all, he's in here. So definitely, it's not that you get kicked out of the program. That's not what I mean. If you don't have a 4.0 GPA, that's not what I mean. It was definitely a low GPA that you could have to stay in the program. But if you were not effectively doing things to make the program better or to better yourself or to better the other students that were, around you, you're there for no reason. There's no reason for you to stay if you're not gonna better yourself, better somebody around you, or make something of it. Somebody else can take your spot if you don't want it that bad. There's plenty of people who wanted to be in that program. And yes, there was a certain number of people that we would allow to be in the program because it was such a highly requested area to come to. I know that sounds crazy because of, it's military style, but a lot of people wanted to be in the program. There was a lot of benefits to it. And when people started to realize that, they wanted to be a part of it as well. So, you could be replaced very easily if you were not gonna, make a difference and be in the program to be better. So that was definitely, again, yes, you had to have a certain GPA, but it wasn't like you had to have like a 4.0. There was definitely some people that barely graduated that were in the program, and they didn't really do a whole lot, but they were still in the program, and they were productive in some type of way, and that's why they were in the program. So there's that. So yeah, I definitely, I loved it. I ranked up a lot. Thankfully, I got into college because of the program. I mean, I had good grades too, but it was a big part of it. So cutting into sophomore year is when I did all the teams. That's when I signed up for all the teams. I did drill team, Raiders, like I said, academic team, color guard, honor guard, so on and so forth. And sophomore year is I was a first sergeant of my company. So not an actual first sergeant in the military, a cadet first sergeant, not an actual first sergeant. And I became the first sergeant of my platoon. And like I said, just gradually worked my way up. At the end of my sophomore year, I became an officer. I was promoted to second lieutenant, I believe. No, I could be wrong, y'all. I'm sorry. I could be wrong. I believe I want to say that I was a second lieutenant. If not, I was definitely in the high NCOs. I know that for a fact. And then I got promoted to company commander. So those of you who know, first sergeant is an NCO rank and company commander is an officer rank. So again, cadet was before that. It's not official. And I was one of the highest ranked sophomores that was in the entire program. You know, a lot of people didn't. It was mostly juniors and seniors at that point that got higher ranks in the program off experience and things like that. And yeah, just dove head first, and ended up getting a scholarship out of it. To my sophomore year of high school, I got a scholarship to go to school. So that was really cool. I really got to kind of, absorb the college life and what I wanted to do really early on in my high school career. And it really gave me time to figure out what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be and things like that. So the summers of high school, we'll kind of cut to summers. I spent every summer in high school except for my senior year. I spent in Georgia with my sister. So my sister lives in Richmond Hill, which is right outside of Savannah. Probably about a 30-minute drive or so from Richmond Hill going into Savannah. That's where she lived, and I spent every summer there with her. Like I said, until my senior year. And yeah, it was a blast. We had a great time. It was me and my younger brother who went, and we just had a blast. I mean, cooking out every weekend, going to the beach, Tybee Island, if you're familiar, the mall, just having fun. Just being a kid and just growing up and doing dumb stuff and whatever. It was really good to obviously hang out with my sister. And then obviously I have, she has 3 children, my niece and my 2 nephews, and they were young at that point in time. So it was really cool to get to kind of watch them grow up and, be a part of their summers as well. And we just had a blast, man. It was a good time. I mean, it was great memories. I still remember to this day. And that's really fond memories that I have was growing up, the summers in Georgia. So that was really cool. Reason I didn't go my senior year is because I had a job. I had gotten a job at the end of my junior year, and I was working at the time. It was called Sweet Bay. So it was cash and carry at one point. Sweet Bay, I think it went into like Winn-Dixie. Some of them are now Publix's, whatever, so on and so forth. It's now the one that I used to work at is now Winn-Dixie. And I had gotten a job, so obviously I couldn't do that anymore. I had to grow up, and so yeah, got a job, and I was just a cashier, just a couple days, couple nights out of the week. And so now cutting into my senior year, again, living in the same neighborhood. We did actually move across town. My brother went to go live with my dad in Pennsylvania going into my senior year. And me and my grandma just went and got a little bit of a smaller house because we didn't need that much space anymore. And it was just me and her for my senior year. Those of you who don't know, my grandmother was, she was sick off and on during that time, from the time that I was 16 all the way into the end of, all the way till now, basically. She had a couple strokes, a couple heart attacks, she had diabetes, congestive heart failure, a lot of things were going on. So I was definitely taking care of her a lot during that time too, and trying to balance everything with that situation. So that's the reason why we moved senior year, just to kind of make it easier on her, because I wasn't going to be home as much. I was obviously had a job with my senior year, and I was an ROTC on top of it. So I wasn't home a lot, and I needed her to not only be close to my school so I could get to her if I needed to, but second, it was a lot closer to doctors and hospitals and, just like a store and things like that were more accessible for her to be able to get to as well, not just for me. So that's when I got the job, and it was right across the street from where we live, so it was perfect. So yeah, cutting in the senior year, and I was still company commander. I still kept my position. I didn't want to be in staff. If you know what staff is, It's basically the staff is above all company commanders. They run basically all paperwork and things like that, awards, attendances, whatever. There's each, different positions. And this wasn't my thing. I like to be proactive with my cadets. I had a group of 45 cadets for 3 years straight, and I loved it. I loved teaching and guiding and showing them everything I had learned in my experience. And yeah, so I didn't want to be a staff. I didn't want to sit in the office all day and not do anything. So not, no offense to y'all, but they don't teach classes. So I kept my position. I wanted to stick to my position. I definitely got offered other positions, but I truly loved it. And I ended up getting promoted at the end of my senior year to Command Sergeant Major, which is, if you know, is the 3rd highest rank in the entire program. So there's Battalion Commander, Executive Officer, which is XO for short, and then CSM, which is Command Sergeant Major. And I got promoted at the very end of my senior year. I held that position for, I want to say it was like a few months, maybe less than that. It wasn't very long. We were already kind of, working our way out anyway. The other, the junior and the sophomore kind of started taking over at that point, because we were obviously about to graduate. So I held the position, but I didn't do as much as the Command Sergeant Major that was before me. So he definitely held that position before I did. And yeah, so I got promoted to that, and I graduated as captain. That was my rank, cadet captain. That was my rank when I graduated. Yeah, so going into the end of senior year, obviously I was going to college, and my goal was I was going to attend St. Leo University, get a bachelor's degree. I was gonna major in social work, so basically child education and social work. And then I was obviously going to be commissioning into the military. So I had, went to go get a 4-year degree. That was going to be my major, but I was going to be proactively enlisting into the military. That was my goal. So went to St. Leo, stayed in the dorm at St. Leo, moved out. I bought my own first car. I had I think it was like a 99, if I remember right. It was a 99 black Chevy, Blazer. That's what it was. It was a 99 Chevy Blazer. It was completely black. Everything was black, everything. And I had like pink leopard seats in it. It was, don't ask. And I bought my first car all on my own, and yeah, packed that sucker up to the top and moved to St. Leo. This is now obviously to 2013. Graduated from Zephyrhills High School 2013, and then went to St. Leo. So yeah, going into college, basically me and Brickell did go to the same college. As you know, she'll probably tell you about her story too, but or in her story, she'll tell you that she did graduate from St. Louis University. I did not. I did end up leaving freshman year of college. Basically, some financial situations had come up, and the FAFSA situation and my commission with the Army, all my paperwork, my contracts, kind of all that wasn't going as planned as I thought it was going to. Basically, the amount of money that I was offered, I'm not going to say how much, but the amount of money that I was offered ended up not being what it was going to be. There was some complications going on between my actual parents that filed, and then obviously my grandmother who raised me most of my life. Those of you who know, if you're not legally adopted or if you're not legally emancipated into the guardian that you're with, in Florida at the age of 18, that no longer matters. So if you don't have an emancipation or adoption paperwork or basically anything like that, then it doesn't matter if you have temporary custody of a child when you turn 18. So like myself, when I turned 18, everything went back to my parents at that point in time. So when I filed for FAFSA under my grandmother, who when I was 17 at the time, it got approved because she was my actual legal guardian at that point, and it got approved for a certain amount of money, which was more than enough to cover the rest of what I needed to cover for college. My scholarship had covered all of my tuition and, books and things like that. The FAFSA was supposed to pay for my room and board. and it was more than enough. It actually covered all 4 years. So that was obviously a blessing that did not turn out correctly. So I had to take a year off to catch up financially. I could not afford to stay there. And if I did, I was going to be in a lot of debt. Let's just put it that way. And no, I did, or yes, I shouldn't say no. Yes, I did look into grants. Yes, I did look into other scholarships. I did reapply for FAFSA. But I did not get approved under other people, legally under other people that I should have gotten money for. It's just different tax situation, different financial situation, different, employment situation, things like that. So it was really complicated. If you want to know more about that, post in the comments below. Maybe I'll do a specific video about just that, and how FAFSA works and grants and scholarships and things like that. But as an 18-year-old teenage girl that didn't really know a lot about finances and FAFSA, and it was, I kind of was doing it all by myself, and obviously didn't read the fine print or, what I thought I knew. And unfortunately, I didn't really have anybody that I was close to that could explain all of that to me and teach me what to do and what not to do. So I kind of set myself up for failure without knowing. Thought I was doing everything I should have been doing and wasn't. So lesson learned. But yeah, so I had to leave, took a year off to catch up on the loans and just try to figure out what I was going to do. I knew that I wasn't going to go to a university. I was definitely going to go to a community college, and I was trying to figure out if I still wanted to get my bachelor's or kind of where I was going to go. So yeah, ended up moving to Lakeland. Was there for about a year. I think maybe it was about a year. Just, ended up, living out there with someone at the time. And that's how the vet tech situation came about. So during this year of me taking a year off and trying to catch up on loans, I was still working at Sweet Bay at the time. It was now transitioned to Winn-Dixie. And I wasn't making a lot of money. I was making, I think, minimum wage at that point in time. And it just wasn't enough to help me pay bills and to catch up on my loan and, just live and things like that. So I ended up, I was driving by the clinic that I worked at, the first clinic that I worked at, and I was dared to go and apply for this job. It was a joke. I was dared to go apply, and on the billboard it said, looking for, kennel technicians and vet technicians. And I Googled it and, basically seen a bunch of nurses holding a bunch of puppies and thought that it was the cutest thing ever. And why would I not want to go work with animals all day? Why not go hold puppies all day? So yeah, so applied the next day. This was a joke, by the way, when I applied. The next day I got a phone call from the manager, asked me to come in for an interview. Again, still think this is a huge joke. And go in, got interviewed, and got the job. Don't know how, because I was not qualified. But I got the job. I went in there in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt because, again, this was a joke. Don't do that in an interview. Go looking professional. I didn't take it seriously. I didn't think that I was going to get it. So I got the job that day as a kennel technician. If you know what a kennel technician is, it ain't nothing. You're basically taking out dogs to go to the bathroom, picking up their, feces and feeding them. And that's pretty much what you do. So got hired, did that for, I was a kennel technician for a few months, and I actually loved it. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I did. I loved it. I loved working with the animals, and I got to see a lot of cool things and be a part of a lot of surgeries and, just learn animal medicine and get to work with some incredible doctors, veterinary doctors, and some of the technicians I got to work with and still work with to this day, incredibly talented. So it was a really cool experience for me to kind of open up my horizons and learn something new and something that I never thought I would have done. And I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. So yeah, so cutting into, I am now, this was about 2 years later, moved back to Zephyr Hills, ended up not working out with the vet clinic. And then that's how I ended up at Walmart. So I ended up at Walmart. That's when obviously I met, I already knew my husband from high school. We met in high school. We were friends in high school. And then that's how I ended up with my husband. We ran into each other when I moved back to Zephyr Hills, and yeah, kind of hit that off. And yeah, so that's pretty much kind of how I got to where I am now. I went to Walmart. You know, it wasn't for me, and I really love animal medicine, and I thought, you know, what about getting back into animal medicine? So I did. I left Walmart, and I now work for a different clinic, not the same one I worked for. Now I work for a different clinic, and yeah, that's how I got to where I am now. So now I am married, obviously, to Cody. And obviously, like I said, I met him in high school. We were friends, and then ran into each other again when I moved back to Zephyr Hills, and that's how we rekindled that. And yeah, so that's how I got to where I am now. Yes, I am still affiliated with the Zephyr Hills area, and yeah, it's been an interesting long story. But for those of you, you know, who are listening to this, if you've gotten all the way to this part, sorry, I know I talk too much. But I hope that my story will inspire you to know that, you know, you can come from nothing. You can come from nothing. You can live in a trailer. You can live off the railroad tracks. You can, you know, I mean, literally have nothing and have everything at the same time, if you know what I mean. And I had a lot of bad memories, but a lot of good memories as well. And I think, you know, kind of where you come from and what you've been through and your journey to get to where you are now is who you are. It's your story. It's your life. It's, you know, everybody's different, but it makes you who you are. So, you know, don't be ashamed of where you come from. Don't be, you know, wishing that you were somebody else or wishing that you grew up differently, because everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own legacy. So, you know, it may suck at first, but you make your life what you want to make it. You can build your own destiny. You can, you know, put yourself out there and try something new, and look what happens. You know, you love it, and then it becomes a career choice for you. So a lot of people are probably going to ask, am I going to finish college? So no, I did not finish college. Obviously, I you know, community college. I did enroll in a few community colleges, but again, money was always an issue, unfortunately. So I did put my college career on hold. I do have goals to finish college. I think I'm gonna go for an AA, possibly a bachelor's degree at some point in my life. You know, whenever. I might be 60, but we'll figure it out. But I'm you know, and not to, you know, those of you who are watching, especially if you want to go to college, you know, don't not go because of my story, because everybody's story is different. It's because my financial situation wasn't where it needed to be doesn't mean that you can't do something different. But yes, I do want to finish college, but it will definitely be on my terms. It will definitely be in a different financial way, if you know what I mean. And I'm actually really glad that I left, because I'm not in debt because of it. Or I was in a little bit of debt, and I've gotten myself out of that, thankfully. But yeah, if you're, you know, if you're not 100% confident that you can do it, or you're scared about money situations or whatever, just look into grants, look into FAFSA, look into all the things that they can offer you. You know, FAFSA is not just for loans. It can be for other things too. A lot of people get grants. A lot of people don't even pay for school. So, you know, really look into it, do your research, talk to people who know what they're talking about. Don't just go to your parents. No offense to y'all parents out there, but times are different now. Times are crazy. Schools are different. Money's different. Everything is different. So if you're not 100% confident in what it is that you're talking about, go find somebody who knows what they're talking about. Go talk to a financial advisor. Go to the school. Talk to a counselor. Get information. Read the fine print. All the students out there, especially you seniors, don't sign a contract until you know what it is that you're signing. Don't just see a bunch of money on a check and think, oh, cool. You don't know what you're talking about. Go read the fine print. Go talk to somebody. Get a lawyer. If you have parents that can afford a lawyer, or if you know a lawyer or whatever, have somebody look at your paperwork. Have somebody to help you and guide you so that you don't make the same mistake that I did. Because I would be probably graduated by now with a master's degree if I would have known better, if I would have just been more knowledgeable. You know, teach your kids, y'all. Parents who are watching this, teach your kids about finances. Teach them about college. Teach them about all the opportunities they have, because I wish that I would have known about all the things that were out there that were offered to me, and I just didn't have anybody to guide me through it. So If you're a parent, especially if you have a teenager that's going into high school, or if you are a senior in high school and you're confused and don't know what's going on, and you have parents that will help you, go to them and ask for help, because it's hard. It's really hard, especially when you don't know what to do or what not to do. So yeah, that's my story. If you have any questions, or if there's anything that I did not cover that you have more questions about, or if you want more in depth about, kind of, why I live with, certain people, or why I lived in this town or whatever, I'm pretty sure I tried to cover most of it for you. But yeah, if you have any questions, comments, whatever, just let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe and like this channel, Chilling With Us. And thank you all so much for chilling with me, and we will be back.